There was other news this week and a wonderful bookend to our Her discussion on Monday's episode. I'm going to read a statement from Scarlett Johannson that came through late Monday.
Can you do it in her voice?
No, I thought about trying. And, she has one of the best voices on earth, so I'm not going to try to compete with Jordan in that arena. But Scarlett Johannson, regular white guy voice. Last September, I received an offer from Sam Altman, who wanted to hire me to voice the current ChatGPT 4.0 system. Just an editorial note to Scarlett Johannson. It's actually ChatGPT 4.0, and the O is lowercase in keeping with OpenAI house style. But she continues in her note.
Look
here,
at you.
Says,
Style enforcer for all lowercase.
Yeah, just try to be in step with my guy Sam. He told me.
Are you going to edit this out and put it in the VAG files?
Yeah, no, we'll keep it in there. He told me that he felt by my voicing the system, I could bridge the gap between tech companies and creatives and help consumers to feel comfortable with the seismic shift concerning humans and AI. He said he felt that my voice would be comforting to people. After much consideration and for personal reasons, I declined the offer. 9 months later, my friends, family, and the general public all noted how much the newest system named Sky sounded like me. When I heard the release demo, I was shocked, angered, and in disbelief that Mr. Altman would pursue a voice that sounded so eerily similar to mine that my closest friends and news outlets could not tell the difference. Mr. Altman even insinuated that the similarity was intentional, tweeting a single word, her, a reference to the film in which I voiced a chat system, Samantha, who forms an intimate relationship with a human. 2 days before the ChatGPT 4.0 demo was released, Mr. Altman contacted my agent asking me to reconsider. Before we could connect, the system was out there. And the statement continues from there, but I'm going to read Sam Altman's statement now. He says, the voice of Sky is not Scarlett Johansson's, and it was never intended to resemble hers. We cast the voice actor behind Sky's voice before any outreach to Miss Johannson. Out of respect for Miss Johannson, we have paused using Sky's voice in our products. We are sorry to Miss Johannson that we didn't communicate better. Ben, sounds to me like someone hasn't been consistently candid. I have a few thoughts on what's going on here. What's your reaction to this spectacular mess?
Yeah, welcome to the Sam Altman adventure. It continues.
I love it. I hope
so,
he never steps down. There's never a dull moment with Sam Altman.
There is a bit here where I feel so bad for people that can't laugh at absurdities. Like you can simultaneously say this was really stupid and dumb, but if you can't also laugh at how dumb it is, then you're just missing out on life. Like there's a lot of really dumb stuff sort of going on in the world.
I think that's a good high-level take. A lot of people are very, very worked up, and I'm mostly just amazed that this story is real.
Right, you could do both. You could simultaneously like express proper like irritation and annoyance, and also like this is just so dumb. Like marvel at the stupidity. Yeah. So this whole bit of his statement about we got this voice before we contacted her elides the fact that you got the voice because it sounded like her. Like it's not like you accidentally stumbled into Sky. It just happened to sound eerily similar to Scarlett Johansson on her and say, hey, no, we got it first. It's not your voice. It's like just this statement itself is technically correct and spiritually wrong, which again, welcome to the Sam Altman experience to a certain extent. So that's sort of number one. Number two is, I did see the counterintuitive take, like, what an L by Scarlett Johansson, the opportunity to be the voice of AI, like forever, like you're talking about giving up sort of immortality. Yeah. Number three, yeah, this is a good example of people attempting to broaden their horizons. This is the actress that sued Disney and won because
I had totally forgotten that. It's directly on point with the comp conversation we were having earlier in the week. Disney tried to screw her on the back end fees and just release it with Disney Plus. And it seems like, I mean, she settled with them. Who knows what the terms of the settlement were, but yeah, she's not messing around. She's not hesitant to go to court to protect her rights.
Yeah. I mean, but just to cater to those that want irritation, it is irritating. This is like the caricature of tech acting badly. Like, oh, you won't give it to us, we'll just do it anyway. And is it her voice? No, it's not her voice. I think her statement overstates the extent to it's clearly not her, but it's also clearly meant to resemble her. So like everyone is kind of like full of it at this point. And it's, you know, I guess the final take is, what's a good way to get everyone universally upset and worried about AI such that we get regulation? Is this like 5D chess to sort of, you know, get locked down and sort of cement OpenAI sort of in position? I don't know. But there is a bit where I am annoyed at OpenAI. I'm annoyed at Sam Altman because, you know, and they're doing it. It is in a vein of just this caricature of tech, of just doing what it wants, which they did. This idea that, you know, tapping into all these worries, and OpenAI in general just being out there and being vocal. And we have this whole like, we're going to pass laws, you know, or the Biden executive order last fall because we consulted with Sam Altman. It's like there's like there is some self-interest operating here that is not necessarily directed towards what is good for society broadly, what is good for tech. It's also a reminder, the fundamental flaw of so many of these safety folks, and I'm not saying they're responsible for this her sort of bit, but any implication, which is we will have wise overseers to govern these systems, is the overseers are not usually wise, and there's no often like a lack of accountability does not lead to good outcomes. No, this is a very small fish, relatively speaking, but it is sort of a structural issue with a lot of this sort of thing. So I don't know. That was a long rant. I actually didn't mean to say that much because I'm excited for your take. What is your download?
Well, I am interested in the legal questions, of course. Like, there's a common law right of publicity that prevents the misappropriation of a celebrity's name, image, or likeness in connection with a commercial product. That's long-standing.
Yes, and well-known in sports because of all the NIL stuff that's happened with college athletics.
But what's crazy here is that there's such obvious intent to make the voice sound like Scarlett Johansson's character in Her, between, number one, the outreach to Scarlett Johansson herself, and then the Her tweet from Altman, one of the all-time examples.
Just an all-timer.
Just never tweet.
Never tweet.
A real regrettable moment as he's trying to meme his way onto trending topics the day of the demo. And I would be curious if they ever actually did go to trial. I would bet that there would be some unhelpful discovery as to instructions given to the voice actor that they hired, or internal discussions about emulating her. There are a number of clips out there circulating where Sam Altman is talking glowingly about Her. And again, that itself is insane because Her shouldn't really be an aspirational movie. And so I think it does present some interesting legal questions. And Scarlett Johansson later in her statement was lobbying for some sort of legislation to clarify the law surrounding appropriation of celebrities' voices and likenesses. And I think we do need clarity in that area. I don't know that this is going to be what gets us there. But it's clear that these sorts of situations are going to continue to arise in the years to come.
For sure. We do need clarity. I think that is one of the big takeaways here. We also need clarity on the whole copyright thing, right? Like just today, OpenAI announced some deal with Dow Jones. I just saw the headline. I haven't looked into it yet, but to license all their content. Does that actually need to happen? Like the whole fair use question around AI stuff is really interesting, and it's really unclear. I think legally it should be fair use, but this might be a case where, okay, it's a different scale of me clipping a bit of an article to put it in a Strecker Daily Update versus AI's, you know, these machines consuming vast quantities of data. But
right.
Number one, we need clarity from the courts. And then number two, Congress can act in response to that, or they could unilaterally act to sort of provide clarity. Do you actually need this, right? Like there's a real, if we say that copyright material can't be used in these materials, that's a reason why OpenAI is signing these deals. That's the precedent they want because they already did it. Like they, you know, this is a real pulling up the ladder behind them sort of bit, which again, you know, again, is this 5D chess? Like I actually am not completely sure if it is or isn't, right? And so yeah, but your broader point, this is a big thing. There is clarity that's needed, and clarity, it goes back to the platform point. You need stability. You need stability and clarity to build new things. And this is just one of the many areas where there's so much upheaval and volatility in the space. It is hard to build.
Yeah. And, you know, I think in terms of the legal questions, I mean, look, the hilarious interpretation of this story is that Sam Altman is just unfathomably out of touch. And all of it is so neatly encapsulated by the way this is all played out. And as I was telling somebody last night, it's refreshing to know that someone with a 180 IQ can also be this clueless and, in fact, is more prone to incidents like this than most of us are. So I'm going to continue to be entertained as all of the fallout from this continues. But as far as like the 5D chess question, I don't know. I would actually go the other direction and say that an incident like this and just the entire OpenAI experience over the last 12 months or so, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what the precise mechanics will look like, but I would bet that OpenAI is a company that's going to go down in a hail of lawsuits at some point, and Altman's public reputation will go down with them. And one of the things that was interesting in the wake of this incident is there was a lot of talk about Y Combinator teaching companies to be quote unquote naughty and push the boundaries of legality. And I saw some people just citing that sort of maxim. And I think the issue with that is that the approach worked much better 15 years ago. And one of the things that the companies like OpenAI would run into is that interpretations of the law aren't fixed. And it's especially true for the copyright questions where the decisions are oftentimes just sort of like a coin flip. So tech companies are going to need to be more conscious of the reality that when they walk into a courtroom, they're not the good guys. And I bet that will be true of OpenAI in a bunch of different contexts as the years pass. And incidents like this really aren't that big of a deal, but the more they accrue with Altman and OpenAI, it leads to those guys forfeiting the benefit of the doubt and, again, entering courtrooms under suspicion. And I do think that's going to be problematic long term.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's always been sort of, you know, murmurs in the Valley. You know, Altman has left previous situations in sort of clouds. You know, is there some sort of aspect of that here? The bit about pushing the boundaries, I'm sympathetic to that because in a lot of cases, it's not that there's laws that were written for an analog world that don't really make sense in a new one, right? Probably the go-to example here is something like Uber. And I will say, as someone that's been traveling the last couple of weeks, Uber is just, it's amazing. It is so much better for consumers. There's so many aspects of, I think about like I go out and I go to get to see some friends and we can have a couple drinks and I can be confident everyone's going to get home sort of easily and well because this service exists. And it came to market in a way like, well, it's not clear if it's allowed or not. Let's launch. Let's get people on board. And then when city councils want to pass laws, there's a political movement to support it, right? That is probably the canonical example of pushing the limits in a way that actually changes the legal framework in a way that I think is societally beneficial. Now, Uber is not perfect. There's lots of things to go back and forth on it. I know the arguments in all directions, but I do think it is, from a consumer perspective, has been a very sort of positive development, and it happened by virtue of sort of pushing the line. I think it's foolhardy to think that.
Strategically speaking, you could do that far easier 15 years ago than you can today.
Completely agree. And Uber helped ruin the pot for everyone also, right? Yeah. No, right. I think your point is well made. The atmosphere is different. The suspicions are much higher. all these things are true, and AI generally is just sort of anxiety producing in general. And it's kind of frustrating because we don't talk enough, and there is not enough recognition of the tremendous benefits and upsides that can come from AI, right? It used to be that the critique of tech is we don't talk enough about the potential downsides. Everyone's super positive. AI is the opposite. Everyone's writing about the downsides. No one's thinking about the potential upsides, the impact this can have on normal people in their lives. And you know, this whole world, this bureaucratic legalese world that we live in that is so hard to navigate, that in a way that's really, I think, hard to grok for people in tech and their 180 IQs or whatever they are, like just making the world easier, more approachable. We have plummeting birth rates. We need more productivity. We're talking about jobs. We don't have babies. Like there's lots of sort of issues and challenges that AI, you know, can really make a positive difference. But as affirmation of your point, most of the drumbeat is relentlessly negative, and that is very different than the way things were 10, 15 years ago. And that's something that I think for the industry needs to be cognizant of, and you know, do a better job of not being on the defensive and sort of pushing back.
Yeah, well, and tread more carefully, and don't screw with.
And don't take Scarlett Johansson's voice.
I would say that's a very easy lesson on the way out of this. The